there's a clip I could do. It's kind of far from me.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for coming. I'm just going to do a quick intro to these lovely ladies here. I'm Bahar from Case.one. I actually went to law school with both Vickie and Amanda, so we go way back. They built a very successful alternative practice, and I'm very proud of them. Half of their practice is actually a nonprofit foundation, and half of their practice is a for-profit, successful practice where they represent children. I don't know if I'm going to do this justice, but I will let them explain how their practice is set up, because the nonprofit part is new, and they've been able to do this, just the two of them, with a couple of assistants, and now they've taken on a new attorney, brand new, not an attorney yet, and they've been able to do that with the use of technology, and they have very little experience going out on their own, but they did it. So this is what, as a company, we stand for and what we encourage, and I did the same as an attorney on my own. I went out on my own. So this is what we all stand for, and our graduating class was a very aggressive class, and a lot of us have ended up doing kind of a similar thing. And there are a lot of us who've gone out on their own with very little kind of working experience, you might say. So this is what tonight is about, encouraging young attorneys to go out on their own, build a new style of a law firm, be competitive, utilize technology, and change the legal field. So I will let Alan kind of do a little better intro if he can, or the girls can do it themselves.
Well, I'm not going to be able to do it justice. So what I'll do is just kind of introduce the Evolve Law a little bit. I mean, first, thank you all for taking the time to come out and join us tonight. These events are always great because the people that participate, the speakers are carefully selected to kind of show us an alternative way of how we can make the legal industry a little bit better in our own way. And I think the firm that we're going to hear about is representative of what the Evolve Law stands for as an organization. It's the evolution practice of law. So with that, I'll just hand it over to the experts here.
Thanks. So, quick question for the crowd. How many of you have at least one social media account, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest? Come on, show hands. Okay, just about all of you. So we've kind of used that tool to reinvent ourselves and create ourselves as an expert online in our field. And it's really kind of paved the way for how we've thought outside the box for creating our firm.
It's nothing new to think of your law firm as a business, but when you're in law school, there's no emphasis or focus on that. So one of the things that we really had to kind of just wire our brains was to think of it as a business first. And it may seem a bit ridiculous, but our goal was like, okay, how does Google do things, right? So when we're trying to, as Bahar had indicated, look for these millennials, which we're at the top of the millennial, so I don't really consider myself a millennial, but you know, it's one of those things that, you know, what are they about? Because those are going to be your clients, and moving forward, they are going to be people that you hire.
And so, you know, what we look at a lot of times is what were we told in law school about how a law firm has to operate or should operate, and we kind of did the opposite. We kind of thought, we both worked at other practices for a little while, and just didn't like the way we practiced. We didn't feel like it was efficient for our clients. We didn't feel like we were being creative enough. And so we kind of thought of a different structure. So we do a number of different things that we're going to talk about, but the biggest emphasis we can say is that thinking outside the box and thinking more along the lines of how businesses do it successfully is a better way to look at it than just what law firms have done for generations, right? And so what works for us may not work for each area of practice, but that idea of thinking outside the box and trying to figure out how can you better reach your clients rather than throwing $20,000 a month at ads. Is there a different way to do it?
And there's different areas of the law that may work for, right? You throw a stone and you're going to hit a family law attorney. We know that, right? You're going to hit a personal injury attorney. But it's really marketing yourself. You are the brand. We're not the law offices of Selogie and Brett. We're Selogie and Brett LLP, right? But that doesn't really tell anybody anything. But what is a potential client going to do? They're going to look on Google. They're going to see if we have a Facebook. They're going to see if we have an Instagram. Do we have a Twitter? Are we on Pinterest? A lot of the clients that we deal with are moms. They're moms of children that have special needs. A lot of them have amazing groups on Facebook. They're on Pinterest. They're looking for different ideas as to how to stimulate their children's attentional issues in the classroom. So we had to have a Pinterest. And I'm going to tell you, I didn't know what we were going to do on Pinterest. But we just kind of explored, right? And being able to take that time and making the time to do that, to sit down. We have monthly partner meetings where we just say things and we see what would work and what won't.
So one of the things that a lot of law firms do on their website, and I want to preface this with a lot of things that we don't do doesn't mean that they don't work, it's just we found a different way to do it. So a lot of law firms do blogs on their websites. That's how they educate their potential clients. That's how they point themselves as experts in the field. It didn't really work for us. We didn't have time to be sitting writing, and our clientele didn't necessarily have time to go read it. So we found other ways on social media to kind of service the client. But when we first started and we thought about who our client was, the reason why Bahar said we have a private practice and a nonprofit is the majority of our clientele is either low income or they have a lot of other expenses dealing with their child with special needs that they can't afford to go pay $300, $500 an hour for an attorney, especially because the clientele that we work with could be our clients year after year for 18 years because we're dealing with children in the K through 12 education system. So we may fix something when they're in kindergarten, but it may spring up again in second grade. So they're not going to be able to afford that hourly rate. So we very early on figured, we need to find a way. We call ourselves a low bono firm because we operate in only flat rates for our clients. We do yearly retainers that we call maintenance care packages because we're not in the area of law that is very heavy in litigation. It's a lot of negotiation and mediation. And then we set aside the nonprofit in order to provide the low income families pro bono legal aid because the area of practice that we do they don't have service that with legal aid. So low-income families really don't have anywhere to go. The majority of the attorneys that do what we do, they charge either for the hour or they charge $5,000 to $10,000 for a case.
And I think just having that mentality of really trying to figure out who your client is and getting into their heads, right? For wills and estates, it's it's an older person. Well, no, it's not necessarily an older person because eventually everybody gets older, but you want to prepare them, right? So you put a spin on that, right? And you say, no, you want to start planning. You have your, I don't even know the biggest gaming console, PS4 or whatever. I don't know. That was $500. Don't you want to put it in your will and give it to your brother? Whatever. You just put a spin on it, right? And I think that us being able to kind of look, and I kind of touched on, what does Google do, right? Having that work-life balance. Because I don't look like the typical attorney, clients. They go, oh, you're an attorney, and they say the same thing about Amanda, but that's the point. We don't have to be that stereotypical stuffy attorney. That's not what our office is like when the parents come in, but that's what a parent wouldn't want. A parent doesn't want that stuffy attorney, and so it's just really getting into the minds of your clients and seeing how social media and technology really plays into that.
And so we really look at that in terms of how else do we educate our clientele, how do we get them involved in being educated, and also not being afraid of the legal system, because how many people come to you and say, oh, I don't really want to get an attorney? How many people have the perception that attorneys are bad? So we try to put a spin on it and make it, no, we're really here to help you. And so one of the most recent things that we've done is we actually launched today a podcast that serves as an education module for not just potential clients, because that's not the only purpose behind everything we do, but also to be experts in that field and to create a culture within our business that we aren't just an attorney.
I think that's our time.
Final words?
I didn't know we were taking questions, but just think outside the box. That's the final word. If we didn't say it enough, think outside the box.
Yeah. Don't feel the need to do what every other attorney does. It's a scary world out there, but you have more power than you think, and those 3 little letters after our name make a difference.
Do you have a mission statement? Maybe that'll help us understand what you do.
You can take questions.
Okay, so we represent children living with special needs, and we advocate for them to have equal opportunities in school, and we fight to level the playing field with all children. Our nonprofit is called the Inclusive Education Project, which is geared towards helping educate families. Basically, any person that has a child would need to know that there's things that, we always say this all the time, there's no such thing as a lazy second grader. If your second grader is not getting good grades, there's something going on. Doesn't mean they have a disability, but something that the school could be doing to help. And so we try to provide that education and changing the conversation about education and how we look at how we're bringing up our kids.
Adam?
So, this is great. Thank you guys, first of all, for coming out. And in fact, if you were talking to somebody, let's say somebody wanted to start a farm like yours, but they were going to do it in Austin, Texas, so they're not going to compete directly with you. What would you tell them, or what would you tell yourselves a couple of years ago about what were the challenges you ran into, and if you had some stuff to do over again, how would you do it differently?
Yeah, I think, please, be in California, be a special education attorney in California. There's no competition. I mean, I know that seems really ridiculous, but no one's going to be able to do the things that you do, right? You're your own brand. People are going to like you for different aspects. And I think one of the things that we had to learn is, you do have to try everything. For a while, we were purchasing booths at different walks and events, the chalk walk, the buddy walk, and things like that. And it's trial and error. I mean, that's just going to happen. You're not going to know everything. Whether we were attorneys for 5 years before we started our firm, or a month before we started our own firm, I think it is one of those things that we had kind of, patience is a virtue. I think that that's always a nice thing to say to young attorneys, because we are the generation of we want it now. We don't want to wait, and I think that that's lost, and we don't necessarily learn how to run a business in law school. So really taking from other people, like one of our first clients was actually a business owner himself, and it started in a garage 20 years ago, and he was kind of as a partnership letting us know 2 yeses and you move forward. And I think that was really great advice for us that we got very early on, that a solo practitioner doesn't necessarily need to think about. But then again, you can't just think, oh wow, I got a $5,000 retainer, I just got $5,000, I'm going to go get that Apple Watch. It's no, how much is my rent for next month, and how am I going to get that paralegal that I need in order to expand my business?
So in addition to your social media efforts, were there technologies that you found that were particularly helpful in growing your business or managing your business or working with your clients?
Yeah, so we started out very, very small, making sure that we pinched our pennies. Like Vickie said, we didn't take our first retainer and just split it between the 2 of us. We really invested in time. And so it took us a little while to use technology outside of social media and our computers and our website. But now that we've gotten there, obviously, like I said, we do now have a podcast that we're utilizing, and we utilize Case.one actually. That's been a lifesaver in just organizing. We don't practice in typical litigation, so we don't have discovery. We don't have the same type of document templates that other attorneys have, and so we had to figure out how can we use this to our advantage. One thing I will say is we are completely paperless from the get-go. So we scan every single document and it goes into our server, and so we don't have a bunch of documents in our office. We purchased tablets that we use when we go to meetings, and we have our Dropbox account linked. So in any meeting, we can access any file, and it's a tablet this big with a little keyboard, and it fits in our purse, and we don't have to carry around a big stack of folders. So that's been really a lifesaver. We record all meetings that we go to, so we use an app on the tablet or our phone for that. So I think it's been really helpful. I think a lot of law firms are really hesitant to go paperless. But I think there's a lot of ways that you can do it and still be successful. It's probably, if you've been in practice for a long time, it might take a little while to scan all those documents. And we do spend a lot of time scanning and shredding. But that's what good interns are for. Just kidding.
Well, thank you so much for having us.
Can we get the panelists up? Jason? Bahar? So if you haven't done so already, I would encourage you to visit the Evolve Law website for updates on events in your area, news related to how the practice of law is evolving and transforming. Sorry about that. Let me just get this slide back up. What we're going to do is some quick intros, and we're going to jump into some questions. But if anything that any of the panelists are saying inspires a question, feel free to just raise your hand. We'll call your attention and have it asked. We intend for this to be more of a dialogue and less of a kind of one-way discussion here. So with that, let's start with some intros. I'll start with myself. My name is Alan Rodriguez. I'm the founder of 1400. We're a law innovation agency based in here in Southern California, Pasadena specifically. We provide services to law firms or the legal industry in general in three categories. We really kind of think of ourselves as a product shop. So consulting, product development, software engineering is the product development side, and then marketing services. We help sell those services. We're a small emerging business with a global reach, servicing law firms and legal technology companies as far away as Australia, Netherlands, Africa, and Singapore. And then right around our corner over in Pasadena. So it's a little bit about us. I'm going to turn it over here and ask each one of our panelists to introduce themselves, and I'll start with you, Bahar.
Should we go with me first?
Yeah.
Or go down there?
Let's go that way down and we'll work our way back. So.
My name is Bahar. I'm the co-founder of Case.one, and I'm also a practicing attorney still. A little bit, but still. Case.one is a practice management software, as you guys know. I used to practice full-time. I started my own immigration practice right out of law school while still working full-time at a litigation law firm. After I went out full-time on my own, I needed to scale my practice, but still, I was busy enough where I needed something, but not busy enough where I could afford to bring somebody in. So I started looking at what was out there and couldn't really find something that fit my need for my small immigration practice. So I met my co-founder, who was here earlier and left, who is the tech guy, and we built Case.one together for my use. And he has startup experience and a tech background, so we decided to launch the company and see how it goes, and it's gone really well. We're in France, and also in Russia and a couple more countries, and we're going to be launching in the UK and Australia and a few more countries in January. And we also have a few more products coming out. Almost all of our products are being born from a need that's out there. We talk to all of our clients, we're friends with a lot of our clients, and that's how we develop. So this one was born out of my needs, the other ones were born out of other people's needs. So I gave up my law career because now this is more fulfilling to me. I found something else that I could do to help people. So that's my background, and that's the story of our company.
You know, part of the Evolve Law format is to ask what you do now, what you answered, why you do it, which you answered, but also who your favorite lawyer of all time is.
My favorite lawyer of all time. Tough question. We'll come back to that one.
You got it. All right, Jason, you're up. So what do you do now, why you do it, and your favorite lawyer of all time?
I can't say yourself, Jason.
All of the above. Jason's my favorite.
So, yeah, Jason Velez. I've been practicing, I guess, or I've been licensed for 17 years. In 2010, I was transitioning from a kind of a TV PI firm, I guess you could say, a personal injury firm. And I had previously kind of had a vanity number. It was 634-1529. And then 1529 is one law, one LAW. And an older attorney saw that phone number, so I like that one long. So I set about getting the domain and then some other assets in place. And I always wanted a widget, excuse me, because brand of law or marketing, I mean, if you're out there, there's plenty of people, you know, selling you their thing, you know, speaking purely from maybe a marketing or lead generation or whatever it is. And so even though I thought I had a good name, how to distinguish myself, I always wanted a widget. And so 2010, so around 12, 13, I started playing around with a free will. You know, I wanted to say that this is something that shouldn't be charged for. I couldn't figure out why LegalZoom was charging. If you go scour the internet, you would find a free will. And then with the technology at that time, it was primarily like embedded in the website, and it just wasn't working really well. Anytime you'd update the website, it would crash, and so just technology wasn't there. Fast forward to 15, and I kind of thought, well, hey, on-demand, right, Uber and all this stuff, everything, the on-demand this, on-demand that, okay, I'm going to make the on-demand lawyer happen. So I kind of get into a kind of mobile app space and start playing around with communication, you know, chat-based product, video chat-based product. And then then about 16, chatbots. Chatbots are all the thing. All right, so I get in, I start making my chatbots, and so I have a chatbot that plays with the video thing. And then I don't know, does anybody want to give me 2017's word? Anyone? What was that?
Blockchain.
Thank you, blockchain. So I'm currently taking my on-demand product and my little chatbot, and I'm applying it to blockchain type of stuff, and then just to always kind of be out there in front of it all, because it actually does play well together. And so that's kind of what I do. Husband, dad, 2 boys. So I do it because I'm still waiting to have my unique thought. So that's like my goal in life, is to have a unique thought, like something that I can like claim to myself. Every time I think I get to it, I'm like, crap. So that's why I'm doing this. And then favorite lawyer. So it's a two-part answer. There's a lawyer, you know, so I went to law school in Utah, and probably like many of you in the room, you know, I graduated and my sister got served a complaint and I had no idea how to answer it, right? I'm like, what do I do? And then there's this guy at the office who was like a great, like he took a pro se case all the way to the state Supreme Court and prevailed. So like I was like a stud. So but he's not my favorite lawyer, but there was a lawyer, his name is Mike Martinez, and he was basically like my mentor. And like the guy, when I was down and like, crap, I can't do this, would be like, no, you can do this. You know, and then it would tell me, you know, hey, if you want to motion something, you just put the word motion for whatever you want. If you're lucky, you can peg it to a rule, and then you can kind of like, hey, the reason I make this motion is based on this rule. And so Mike taught me that. So that's my view. He's my favorite lawyer, and you know, I'm very indebted to him because he got me over the hump that, you know, you kidding me, like that's great words about the business side of things, but just even that as smart as I thought I was, or with the license, that I still needed some additional help, and very useful. I think we all have those people in our lives. And then I wish I knew the name, somebody here probably knows the name of the character, but it's Tom Cruise's lawyer in A Few Good Men. You're like, if that's the type of lawyer, like that guy, you know, but that's me.
Thanks for sharing that, Jason. We got Josh over here at the end.
Hey, I'm Josh Blandi. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Unicourt. We basically provide easy access to court records. I started doing that because you can find any damn thing on the internet except for court records. So that's what we're about indexing court records and making them widely accessible to people and creating analytics and connecting them, basically connecting people with court records. In terms of why I got into that, primarily, I love technology, I love entrepreneurship, and I also love law, so those were a good fit for me. Favorite attorney, undoubtedly Jerry Smith. Runs some tough cases, never lost, you know, the big guy, or the little man against the big corporation and government. So, good outputs.
Yeah. Thanks again, Josh. So Josh being the non-attorney, one thing you didn't mention, but I thought was worth mentioning, is the serial entrepreneur, this guy. And so his current startup is not his first rodeo. And he's run a successful other business, which I think kind of inspired the current one, if I'm not mistaken. So.
Yeah. So I originally founded a company called Countrywide Relief. It was my first startup. It basically helped consumers get out of debt. Through that kind of journey, you know, when consumers stopped paying the debt, percentage of them will get sued by the banks. In fact, that's the largest amount of lawsuits filed in the United States is banks suing consumers, probably about 35% of all lawsuits. So, you know, I kind of saw that as a big need in terms of consumers in our program had this need when they got sued by a bank. We weren't a law firm, we couldn't help them out. And that's where we started down the journey about finding law firms that we could partner with, they could handle the work for that. But what we really kind of found was that consumer who initially was pretty much turned into the worst client possible because you say, hey, you know, trust us, we'll get you out of debt, hold our hand here, and then, you know, a year later they're getting sued and say, I'm sorry, but I can't help you out. That just makes for a PR news media story, you know. And so, kind of what we found from that in partnering with law firms, you know, to offer a low solution for those clients was that they kind of had the worst thing happen to them. They graduated the program. Almost nearly 100% of them will graduate the program and had a successful resolution to a lawsuit. So then I said, wait a second here. There's enormous need out there for people that kind of have these routine things happen to them that need kind of a low-cost, flat fee, in volume, legal representation, similar to what the banks do. They do this in a robo process. They do this in mass, right? Why can't we flip that around and make an in-mass legal solution to be able to represent these types of consumers? And so they started down that journey looking for how do I get more of our data. It just wasn't there. The stuff that was there was in large companies like Lexus or Westlaw, who just really weren't equipped to supply the type of the volume of data, the structure of the data, or the licensing to be able to do what I wanted to do.
So we clearly have a panel of some shakers and movers here, and I'm excited to learn a little bit more. And I think I'm going to start with you, Bahar. So my question is, can a modern law firm survive without technology? You know, whether it's practice management software, case analytics, et cetera. What do you have to say about that?
Well, the short answer is no. And the earlier talk, they set it up perfectly by explaining how law schools don't really prepare young lawyers coming out or any lawyers coming out and starting practices. They actually, I don't know if they still do this, but they used to tell law students that lawyers aren't business people or law firms aren't businesses, and how much more wrong could they possibly be? You have to run your law firms like businesses, and to run a law firm like businesses, you need analytics, you need data. And to have analytics and data, you need to use proper systems, you need to have proper accounting, you need to have proper way of keeping track of things. And if you're not using a system, you can't do that. So one of the ways to do that, for example, let's just take billing. If you're not keeping track of your billing, not in the traditional way of like, let me bill 0.6 and let me do that in Excel. Not that way. If you're not keeping track of your billing or efficiency of how long is it actually taking you to perform a task, not how long you can justify to your client to get paid, how long is it actually taking you, or how long is it actually taking your employee? How long is it actually taking you to do a case? How much is that case really costing you in terms of payment to your employees, overhead? If you're not keeping track of that, how would you know if you were actually profitable on that case or task or on that employee or anything? Just because you were profitable at the end of the month doesn't say anything. You have to know, a normal business measures KPIs, measures your return on investment. If you have all of these business terminologies, which it's just whatever, they're just terms of how to measure a certain data. But if you're not doing that in your law firm on a certain case, you will never know how to scale your business, how to grow your law firm. What if a certain practice area is profitable, if a certain case is profitable, if you measure that, you can come up with alternative billing arrangements. You can kind of know, let's say even if it's a litigation case, let's take a personal injury case. If you know on average how much that case is costing you, you can get competitive with other people and come up with a flat fee or a combination thereof, a flat fee and contingency, and advertise yourself that way, scale yourself, market yourself, or however way. That's just an example. You can run reports, you can measure anything by just having those numbers. And if you're using a system that's in place, all of that data is already in the system. So you don't have to come and write these down and create Excel sheets and do any of it manually. These are just created by just one click because all of your numbers are already in one system because you're using one system.
So the modern law firm should rely on these tools.
On analytics and run like a business. Absolutely.
I couldn't agree with you more. Josh, I have a question for you. You work with a lot of attorneys, both through your initial business and Unicourt now. What is the biggest difference you see when working with younger attorneys versus those who've been practicing for a while?
I would say that the biggest thing is that I've observed, and I don't paint every attorney with a broad stroke here, but the biggest thing I've observed is, in general, newer attorneys are more open to trying new ideas and technology. And this isn't just a function of attorneys. This is anybody in business. If you're a new startup, you're going to try new things, okay? And you're going to chip your teeth, and you're going to fail at some things. But it's sometimes that willingness to try things can bring that way, that willingness to really try things and kind of form the bias opinion. And what I've found with attorneys who've been practicing for some time, they're pretty married to their ideas and they're not open to trying new things. And I think for attorneys, the biggest thing I've observed is that your ability to make money is time dependent, okay, for the most part. And you only have so much time in the day. So if you're not leveraging technology to multiply your time, it's going to be hard for you moving forward in the future to make a good living being an attorney. And so I see with younger attorneys, they're more willing to try technology, but more willing to do new things, more willing to engage in that, that will leverage your time and do things that attorneys who've been practicing a long time wouldn't have tried. And so I think that's a real asset for public community attorneys. I think that for businesses, for law firms in general, if they're not embracing technology, whether they know it or not, they're dying slowly. And I think that business is now shifting to newer attorneys who are willing to try different things. Similar to you said you did here earlier. That's a great example of two women went out and tried something different, took some risk and took a chance, and no doubt made lots of mistakes. But at the end, they found a nice little fit that fits with what they wanted to practice and the needs that they could fulfill, and they learned how to leverage technology to be able to get that.
You know, it's interesting, we were having a discussion earlier before we came on here from the panel, we were talking about how does one go about pursuing innovation. One of the things that is required to pursue innovation is the ability to look around the corner, so to speak, to look into the future a little bit, right, to anticipate some need. But the practice of law asks you to kind of believe in precedent, right, to look to the past for your answers. And so there's this kind of innate contradiction, right, like in the education itself, right, look to the past for answers. So it's interesting to hear you share your answer. I think in general, like maybe developing a habit of experimentation is, it sounds to me like with all the answers we've heard so far, is a very valuable trait to have in the law firm. Thanks for sharing that. I'm going to move over to Jason here. You've worked with a lot of technology and continue to do so. Can you give an example of how you see attorneys leveraging technology to grow their business?
Well, sure. There's, I think, a couple that growing the business. I think first of all, I'll say address the technology for just staying in business. And a lot of solos and new entrepreneurs, lawyers, or however the term is, but a new solo attorney really needs to do more with little or nothing. And so that's when you get into so many of these digital technologies. Of course, anywhere from your calendaring system to paperless office, paperless retainers, things like that. Really using the digital medium far more than a traditional copy machine. One thing I wanted to add on to Josh's question, this is my own observation, and so I could be wrong because I'm probably not a young lawyer, so to speak. 47 last Friday, so old man. I would say younger lawyers or the new crop of lawyers, they don't want to come into the office, and not in a negative way, not in a way, not that they don't want to work, they just don't want to work in a brick and mortar confine. So right there, you need to be in the digital medium. So that's one way that I see attorneys leveraging technology, right? By not being married to the idea that you have to be behind the desk at that office over there, or you're not practicing law. Then growing the business, and I would, our keynote speakers, our Darwin Talk speakers, I think they hit it on the head, and they may have not used this term, but content. When you're a young new business or a new lawyer, you may not have a ton of work, but you definitely have time, and you can produce content. You can become a subject matter expert. You can find your passion and make it easier for someone else. The service element of the law is a part of maybe this the new upcoming practice via digital and all these mediums will actually do more service. But I think that's where I can see lawyers, whether it's on Pinterest, excellent idea, whatever the medium is. Whether it's just a blog post, whether it's a PDF file, so I think that's content.
Yeah. Bahar, along the same lines that you talked about, like using analytics to grow business, can you give us another example of how firms can leverage technology to grow their business?
The biggest one that I push for is obviously analytics. That's the biggest one. The second one is leveraging technology to replace minute and mindless tasks that lawyers didn't go to law school to do, that is unnecessary for you to do.
Automation?
Yes, of course. Automation of a certain tasks, obviously. A lot of attorneys, and I wouldn't really necessarily say young attorneys, they seem to be more fearless in this, but there are a lot of attorneys, and this is a cultural resistance to technology. They're afraid that technology is going to replace them and their jobs. And it never will. Technology will replace the, excuse my language, crap work of what you do, and it will help you. It's a tool to help attorneys, and it's a tool to replace the work that you never went to law school to really do. It's to put you back to the analytical thinking and what you went to law school to be. Those tasks are still billable. Those are things that you can still bill for, and have technology replaced and get those 6 hours of your day back and have it be automated and have the rest of your day focused on things that you actually enjoy, the analysis, the good part of your work, the thinking, the more interesting cases, and to be able to take on more cases and grow your business. Now, I've worked for people, and I've had people who said, I don't want to grow my business. I don't want to have that extra time. Well, take that extra time to sleep or do whatever, enjoy your life. You don't have to have that extra time to work more. And people say, use technology to work more or whatever it is. But you can have those extra few hours. Just have technology automate your work or organize you. Or there's so much that it can do. It doesn't always have to be analytics and all of these smart things that it could do for you. It could just make your life easier. It could give you a few extra hours during the day. It could just keep everything in one place, which is awesome. It could make everything accessible outside of office. You could travel with just a laptop and still work if that's what you want to do. I do that. It's good. It could do so much for you. It just depends on what your priorities are. So I never try to push what my priorities are, which now you've heard the priority levels, but I ask people, what are you looking for? What do you want technology to do for you? And I get their list of top 5 things that's important to them, whether it's life or business and what they want to accomplish, and then I sell them on those, and I show them those features, or I point out those things to them. And it's never one thing fits all. It's always people have different priorities. Like I said, some people want to sleep more, some people want to take over the world.
I'm all for sleeping more. That's for sure. So clearly, I think everybody here believes technology is a fantastic tool to help us kind of do more, do better, improve our own quality of lives. Josh, I want to ask you, how does one go about choosing the right technology for them, right? Because there's lots of people trying to sell stuff to lawyers all the time, myself included, right? Like I'll put myself in that now. But how does one go about prioritizing what their needs are and selecting the right technology for them?
That's a great question. Do we have any technology purchasers or people who make a decision on the render that purchase technology? I'll use one of the features. What's the first thing you look at?
Is it going to be useful?
Right. This is what I would do. I would immediately go, okay, what features does it have? Oh, it has that. Great. I think I could use that. Oh, it has that. But what I learned over time is actually that's the worst thing to do. Get your use case. Get exactly what you want is your outcome. Okay? So whatever technology you're looking at, you have a defined situation, okay, that you have a defined outcome you want from it. And then based on that outcome that you want, make sure it has the features that you need to get that outcome. Because otherwise what happens is you end up looking at all the time, all these features and all these like nice to have things, right? But when it really gets down to it, it doesn't do the things that you wanted it, that you needed it to do, the must-haves. And so I would say that the first thing is, get a use case that that you want to use, a well-defined problem. And then the next thing is, if you don't understand the technology, find somebody who does understand the technology. Even though I run a technology company, I constantly leverage, my digital marketing lead for stuff that doesn't marketing leads outside of my skill set. I constantly leverage my CTO to say, I don't quite understand how this technology works. And if you don't have one of those people in your organization, that's okay. Go out and find somebody who does understand it. A consultant or somebody who has a deep understanding, contact the company and see if they have vendors that support their product. And that's the best thing you can do is when you contact a vendor, say, okay, this is my use case. Can you help me solve this problem? And that's probably the first part that I would go in choosing it. I would say the second part is when you decide to make a technology purchase, and you're confident that it's going to solve the problem, you have to have a commitment to it. So what I see in a lot of organizations is they sign up for a lot of different technology, but they don't have a commitment from the top to embrace and use technology within the organization. They don't budget it properly. Anytime you adopt a technology, it's an iterative process. being that you're going to deploy it, right? You're going to get people to adopt it, and then you need feedback to make sure that, hey, this is accomplishing what we set out to do with this technology, right? You need to get the feedback from both the people that are using it and stakeholders to decide, okay, is this ultimately accomplishing what we want to do? So, I think that's
Josh, that's a great point. I like to use the analogy, you can buy a hammer, right, which is a simple tool, and in an untrained hand, somebody's going to bend the nail, it takes them 3 swings to kind of get the desired result, but in a skilled carpenter's hand, it's 1 swing and the job is kind of done, right? So I think like choosing the technology and making the purchase is like the first half of taking full advantage. I think there's this whole other committing to it, right? And investing appropriate time to become an expert using that tool. So yeah, thanks for sharing that. And then and speaking of tools, and Bahar, you had mentioned this earlier, like there are lots of things that we can do to automate certain kind of repetitive, predictable tasks, which draws me to the next question here that I'm going to direct to Jason. Jason, how do you think AI and chatbots can be leveraged to help attorneys accomplish some of these things that you're talking about?
So, yeah, I think I always have 2-part answers, but so 2 parts. So I think that there's a couple of components. I think you have one thing that I observed in myself, I would say society at large, people don't want to wait. People aren't they're going to be, on to the next thing. So AI and chatbots can allow you to be on essentially 24 hours a day and responsive. And it doesn't mean that you have to be able to regurgitate the entire Encyclopedia Britannica back to the end user, but it allows them to feel some level of engagement. So in that regard, I see, chatbot as kind of your digital handshake, if you would. Another way is just in the sense of intake, repetitive tasks, what I believe Bahar referred to it as craft work. But for sure.
Very technical term.
Yeah, it's an acronym, constant, repetitive, asinine projects. And so, but the idea is, I say it, like this, is that you need to automate the procedural so that you can deliver more substance. And that's really it at the end of the day. Information gathering, it's so many, especially if you're a small solo and you've got an appointment and somebody shows up at the appointment, they're probably going to pay you, it's a good thing, and they're like, okay, I got these letters and I don't know if you can only see the letters. Oh, they're at home. Well, AI could have prepped them so that when they came to your office, they knew, please bring any relevant documents, photos, or do you have anything you think is important, that type of thing. You can prep them. And then the next level is in our rabbit hole, I'll get to it a little bit, but it's also just another way to stay in contact with your clients. Imagine being, instead of the client calling up, one of the highest complaints is that lawyers don't get back to their clients. I don't know if it's true or not, but I mean, you hear it a lot. And the chatbot can turn it around on them so that you are now automatically pinging them once a month. Hey, just wanted to check if you needed anything from us. Everything's moving along, still gathering documents, whatever you want to say in this automated, proactive message that has a cue for them to reach back to you if they need it. But you just save them a call to you. Because half the time people are calling, they just want to know you're still alive and their case is, there is just status quo, but you just kind of turn the tables on them. So that's where automation, the repetitive and then some of the communication ability through it is what I would say.
Yeah, and I would add that I think that's right on point. I think compelling events, as I like to describe them, maybe that's a fight with the spouse, that's kind of the last fight before somebody seeks, questions about divorce or an injury or an accident. Those all happen at unpredictable times, compelling events do. And that's the way legal services are largely sold. And so having an ability to kind of reach somebody at 10 p.m. when the office is otherwise closed, I think is very valuable, even from a sales perspective for a law firm. So I'm going to switch gears a little bit. Bahar, you've both practiced law, and now you're a startup founder. What do you feel are kind of the biggest mistakes that attorneys make when it comes to technology or starting and running their practice in general?
I think one of the biggest mistakes that they make in terms of technology is that they think technology is a magic wand, and when they select something and they choose it and they implement it, that it should just solve all of their problems on its own, without really anything or any effort on the part of the user. It's not a magic wand, it's a tool. It's something to help you. After you use it the right way, it will help you, and it takes a little while. That's number one. The second thing is, for any tool to work, like if you buy anything, you program it to work your way. You have to have a process in place. Just because you bought, something off the shelf, and you bring it home doesn't mean it's just gonna start working and give you this perfect way that it's gonna work. You have to have your own process in place for any tool to come into your place of work or your law firm and work your way. If you don't have the process in place and you're not organized and you don't have a way that things work, it's not going to work that way. Unless you're willing to adapt that program's ways or tweak it to your way. So you either have to adapt its ways or have a process to make the program to adapt to your ways. That's mistake. Mistake number 3, in my opinion, is that people get used to things and they're not willing to give it up. So they think that, okay, I spent this much money, let's say $20,000 on this program, so because I've already put this amount of money into it and it doesn't work for me, but I've already put money into it, so I'm just going to keep it and I'm going to make it work. It'll have to work because I've already done it. So in the long run, not only they lost the money they put in it, but on a daily basis, they're going to keep losing money by making something that doesn't work to make it work. So that's another mistake. And I can keep going. The other mistake is they don't do internal audits, so they never find out the mistakes that they're making. If you pay attention and you recognize that you're making mistakes and you admit you have a problem, you can address it and you can fix it. If you never admit you have a problem and you've made mistakes, you can never fix it. So you keep on making those mistakes. And we know that attorneys don't have big egos at all, so they never admit it. Anyway, so they keep on making these mistakes, and because they're traditionalists and they don't have big egos, they keep on making those mistakes, and this existing process, it has a ripple effect, and those mistakes really impact their practices. So
I think all of those
I can keep going.
I'm sure you can, and I think all of those points are like right on. And one thing that I would double up on is I'm a big fan of defining workflow, right? Like you should know what your business process is. You should define that. You don't need any fancy software to do that. You just need a notepad and a pen and just sketch out what your workflow is. I think this will help you. Once you know what that is, it will help you choose appropriate technology and then leverage the technology for your specific purpose. So, yeah, I'm a firm believer. All right, so we're going to wrap up here, but before we do, I would like the one top tip that you could give your former self. Adam kind of originally asked this question, but what is the one thing that you could advise the earlier you or a new lawyer starting out in the new firm?
Utilize technology. Utilize technology. I'm not a very tech-savvy person, and I wish I knew the value of it sooner and had learned to use technology way sooner in life. That's my one advice.
Yeah, how about you?
I would think that I would recommend creating a list of most people that you meet or you come in contact with, basically their email, and just keep building to it, because you can develop and continue that relationship over many years, and before you know it, you'll have been practicing 17 years and you would have known 50 or 60,000 people. So those names and emails are potential referral clients.
Josh?
Well, it's the same question I asked my father-in-law. He worked in a refinery, he's had an average job, he did pretty well for himself, and I said, Marvin, how'd you do it? He said, I just grabbed the hold of that rope, and I never let go. And I just followed inch by inch. And I got to the top. And so, since this is about new lawyers and technology, I would say grab on that rope and keep climbing and use technology to keep pushing it up.
That's awesome. Well, thanks for sharing. That about does it for my questions, but I want to open it up to questions from the audience.
For people who have co-founders, how did you meet them or get in touch with them originally?
Let's take a shot at that.
My co-founder is my best friend, so I guess that's so actually, yeah, more or less. I invited someone I admired or wanted to work with me, and then from that we spun forward. And before we were founders, right? We were friends, and then you want to be in business with someone that you're gonna like working with.
I had a client who was a developer, and I had a really, really tough month with a lot of difficult clients, and I usually never, ever complain when I have a poker face, and I was having a really tough day, and my client asked me literally what's wrong, and I just explained that I was having a really tough month, and I have really high maintenance clients, and that was really difficult. And she asked me what would it take to make it easier for me, and I explained what I needed, this program that I was picturing in my head that they would stop calling me, that it could just log in and check their statuses and blah, blah, blah. And she's like, I may have someone to introduce you to who could build something like that for you, that you could either license it from him or he could build it for you. Let me introduce you guys. And she introduced me to him, and we flew out and met each other. He's from here. We flew out and met each other, and we talked, and a few months later we had a program.
Any other questions?
Josh didn't answer that question.
Oh, yeah, Josh, well, yeah.
So I've had great co-founders, and I've had not so great co-founders. So I think there's a double-edged sword. So obviously you're going to need, typically with most business, you're going to need another, or at least one other good co-founder, or whether that's your CTO if you're running a tech company, or that's partner crime if you're attorney. But did anyone read Jason Velez from SAPstar? If you guys don't read that, if you're doing a startup or you're new, that's the greatest advice. Whether you're doing a SaaS company or whatever it is, the guy gives phenomenal advice. He's the guy that sold to, he started a company called EchoSign, sold to Adobe, which is for it competes with DocuSign. But he gives the best advice for co-founders. So the thing you have to realize when you're forming a co-founder is like a marriage, right? So you need to make sure when you get together with your co-founder that you have a discussion. If this does not work out, what do we do? Okay, and it's usually some kind of schedule. Like if he quits year 1, I get everything. If he quits year 2, he drops down to less than X percentage. In general, if you break up with your co-founder, you want to make sure that they have less than 5% ownership in your company, especially if you're going to go raising funds or try to attract capital. It's dead work. So have that discussion with your co-founder. The only other advice I would say is make sure your co-founder is as hard of a worker as you are. Because from my experience, you'll find co-founders that aren't, and you'll end up doing everything, and it creates a lot of animosity and resentment, and then that doesn't end well either. So have that conversation, make sure they're as hardworking as you, and they offer complementary skill set. I think give it a go.
Sounds like the operating agreement is just like a prenup. We have a question right over here.
Yeah, so if you are a new lawyer or a young lawyer, you're on board with everything technology related, it can get overwhelming because there's a lot out there. What's your advice to, I guess, figure out how your needs fit with what's out there and vice versa, and keep it streamlined, not try everything that's out there?
Let's take a shot at that.
I mean, I guess you got to first look at maybe what the core need is, and I guess the core need in my thought is, you've got to have your client contact information in one centralized place. A lot of the other things become add-ons at that point. I mean, your smartphone does so much, calendaring, contact, but having the core, your clients, if you know where they are and how to get a hold of them in one place, which is a big, big need, I think you can start from there and then not add on too many things unless they're necessary. Like let the need come to you. That's always what I'm, my developer, and I always want to build these things. I love to build, and I love to make ideas. I'm kind of like an architect, but you have to just scale it down. Let's work at it like in a little micro level, right? Before you want to go out and show this to the world, let's just like show it to 3 people. And so I think similarly, as a new lawyer consuming maybe tech, I think the one core thing you need to know how to get a hold of your clients. You need to do that all the time, and then after that, just scale.
I would start by, one, writing down your process. The second thing that was the most important thing to me was your income is from your client. So your service and your reputation, if you're client facing, is the most important. So the portal to me was the most important of what you're putting out there. The second thing was your my billing and invoicing, which is then bringing that money in. So those two was what I was looking for. That's what I wanted. And having my documents secure and all in one place. Third thing is you want to be very strict with your budget. So you want to set a budget, set all of your priorities, and then fit those in. Fit those in, and if there's any money left over, then pick all the pretty things and what you want to add in. Have all of the main things. As your firm grows, add to your budget and add to the functionality until you have a limitless budget, and add to all the prettiness and what takes you to the next level. Just start with all of the basic minimums and negotiate with companies. If they're startups, call them and see if you can be beta testers of new products. You can always get in and get free stuff. You can always do that. You can always call consultants. There are a lot of consultants out there. Obviously, they charge hourly, but you don't need to do that as a new one. Most startup companies, salespeople aren't too salesy. They can be consulting enough where they can give you advice and build a package for you. And there are a lot of ways to get good deals and free stuff out of companies.
I like to say the answer is always no if you never ask, right? So you can always ask for a discount. They can say no, but it'll always be no if you don't ask.
But also, I'm so sorry. If you volunteer and go be beta testers for new products, it'll help you learn what's out there and what you need and what you don't need.
Josh, anything you want to add?
I think you pretty much covered. My only question is, you had some success with certain types of cases, or I kind of always start from that point where you see this rare butterfly once, and all of a sudden you turn the corner, and all of a sudden there it is, another one. It's not so rare, right? So if you have some success with kind of certain types of cases or certain matters, well then if you can reproduce that a time or two, right, then you're onto something, and then now try to find a product that fits that little specialty you want to start zeroing in
I want to leave some additional time to network with our panelists. So at this point, how about a round of applause for and thank you all for coming out and spending some time with us and learning something new.
Attorney. That was good. Oh, Gabriella. It's actually Judge. It's me.
No,
He was
forgot.
the unicorn.
Good, end.